Welcome to our overview of parent mode for parent Android devices. First things first, this is our main kind of dashboard in parent mode. It gives you a list of all your child devices that are paired to your group. Every card is the same, no matter if it's a smartphone, a tablet, or even, as you can see at the bottom here, an iPhone. But we'll dig into each device and you'll get an idea what options are available. Right up here at the top right is an option called Settings. I recommend you add a passcode to parent mode by tapping on Settings and going to add a passcode. We've had a lot of parents come in touch with us over the years saying, hey, an extension's been done to my kid's time. I don't know what happened, or this app was unblocked. It was blocked before. And then we would dig into the settings and realize that the only possible way this was happening is because the child had access to the parent device and ended up opening up a Boomerang and extending their own time. So eliminate that and add a passcode. Cool thing here is if your device has a fingerprint sensor, we will also attach your passcode to that. All right, back to the home screen. So every device card looks the same here, if it's an Android or iPhone or tablet. But every card here has also these shortcuts in the top right-hand corner. You can rename the device, give it a friendly name, and this name will be used across all reports and in the cards and in the chats and all that kind of stuff. And you can also delete a device. And deleting a device is typically used when you have a new device paired to your group, which is replacing an old one. So delete the old one, get it out of the way, and cleans up your group. All right, every card also has an option for chatting. So you can do a one-on-one chat with your child here, and then they can reply back to you via their own version of the app on their side. In the bottom right here, we have a floating icon with a user's logo on it. Tap on that and you'll get an option to time out all devices or extend time on all of them, and even access our family messenger. For now, I'll access my family messenger. Here I have all my devices, including parent devices, are listed here. And then you can also add a custom icon, as you can see here, or I guess some people call that an avatar. So take a photo with the camera or choose photo from your local Photos app. If permissions are required, we will prompt for that, so you're not getting into any weird stuff here. That's that. So then here we can also do a group chat, so every device in the group, including parent devices, get the message, and we'll go from there. Now, the family messenger is also used for a few other things. We are able to notify you when a new app is installed, and from here you'll be able to approve it or not approve it. The other thing we've done is we have started to use communication via Family Messenger for things like extending time and timing out a device. So your child is aware who did it and when. So right away they know why they're timed out. All right, let's get back to the main list here, the main home screen. I'll get started on the top one. So Manage Device takes you to all of the key features. So you see the map of where the device is located. You can swipe up and then you'll see all the other options that are on this device. If it was a tablet, which I have in my group, the text messaging and phone cards would not be present. So we would take those out because obviously most tablets on Android do not have these features. So we don't bother with them at all. So we'll get started here real quick. But before I get into the cards and the settings, I want to show you another secondary menu in the top right-hand corner. Here you can turn off protection. That could be for troubleshooting or temporary limits to be removed. So you can set up a timer and we'll automatically put it back on. If you set it to unlimited, it will be off forever. So we'll cancel that. And then as well, up here we can make the device ring. So kind of like a Find My Device feature. It'll make it ring. On most devices, even if it's in vibrate or silent mode, we will actually still make a noise. We notice some newer devices, they don't always support that, but most of the ones we've tested on, this works great. Again, I've got a shortcut to Family Messenger here, which gives you a one-on-one chat. And then the one I want to cover right now is Advanced Device Settings. In here, we show you a few options. Now, I have this all selected right now, but normally the default settings are like this. So your date and time changes are enabled, so we block access to this area. That way kids cannot tamper with timers. And then prevent app uninstallation is actually on by default as you set up child devices with our latest versions as of December 2019. If this is not on, I recommend you toggle it on in your parent mode. This will enhance protection against tampering on your child's Android device. Now, blocking YouTube app settings is quite cool. What we do here is you open the YouTube app first, go into the settings, and enable the restricted mode or restricted filter. This will remove some of the inappropriate content that was flagged by the community, and then searches and videos that are recommended will be a little cleaner and a little less inappropriate. There's no filter that's 100%, but in our testing, this is definitely a better thing for younger kids. Now, once you do that on your child's device, go ahead and toggle this on, and then access to that settings screen inside the YouTube app will be blocked by Boomerang. So this is kind of a unique thing we do to reinforce that. The next two are more for kind of the various Android devices that exist. Blocking power saving settings is one that we do in cases where aggressive power saving optimizers will actually disable our background service, because Boomerang runs in the background. If you're finding any weird stuff where some permissions are being lost occasionally, toggle this on and then see if that helps. And then lastly, similar as well, is on some of these Android launchers out there, you're able to kill all running apps from the recent apps dialog, which is kind of your multi-task window where you can select other apps running in the background. So enabling that will block the recent apps list from being accessed, and hopefully not allowing killing any background apps. Now the catch is, again, because of the mix of Android devices, child devices, we work on most, but some devices we may not work on. All right, so back to the main device card features. Let's get through the screen time ones. So if I tap on today's schedule, I'm going to see what's going on with today's schedule. So each day is broken down individually. By default, parent mode will show you today's schedule. So if it's Wednesday, like it is right now when I'm recording this video, you get to see a Wednesday schedule. If I had one for Thursday, be different, I can go in there. Now, if I go edit here, I can edit this block of time only for Wednesday. And then maybe I want to move it up by an hour. This is an example. It would be late for a child. So we got 10 o'clock to 10 p.m. But then Thursdays and all that are gone, because this used to be a block that was the same. So tomorrow, if I want this block to be different, I would add it to Thursday. And then I would say, well, tomorrow is Thursday, so the activities are different. So I'm going to make it from 8:30 to 9 p.m. And then I go save. So now Thursday, I have a 30-minute block from 8:30 to 9. Wednesday, 10:30 to 10:30. And the other days, I just have the typical 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. block. And weekend, same thing. So this is very flexible now. You can go ahead and edit every single day. And again, the schedule is ultimately the breaking time. So before 7 a.m. here on Wednesday, that device cannot use any of its apps except for always allowed apps. And I'll explain the concept of our always allowed apps feature in a bit. And then at 8 p.m., same thing would happen. Is the apps would get all blocked and the device would only be able to access its always allowed apps. So 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is when that device can be used. But we also have another layer on top of this. So this is the daily limit. So daily limit, if I go back to the main screen here, can be accessed directly from here as well. So today's daily limit, tap on that, and we get Wednesday. So Wednesday, I set it to unlimited, but you can dial that back to an hour or two. Just slide left to right and pick the amount of time you want your child to have. Now, this is a timer, so it will count down and reset every 24 hours. If you ever need to do an extension of time, that's where parent mode comes in, and you would go back here and go extend time. This is a great scenario where you don't have to change your actual daily settings, but you can do a temporary change or extension or a timeout. Here we can time out the device for however long you want, and that will be applied within seconds as long as we're communicating with that device. And of course, every communication portion here is important, because any change we make here requires an internet connection from your device to our servers, and then our servers being able to connect to your child's device, providing it's online. If these commands don't apply within, say, like worst case scenario, 1 minute, your device, your child's device may not be online. It may be offline, it may be in airplane mode, the battery may be dead, or it may not have an actual internet connection at that time. What we normally do is we will queue up that change on our server. So when that device does check in, we will then push the changes to it. And sometimes that can cause some issues, but hey, get in touch with our support team and we can definitely help you with that. All right, so device screen time, pretty straightforward. There's more stuff coming up here around screen time. We'll get to that in a second. Now, next up is the Manage Apps block or card. So here I created a shortcut to the app usage. So right from the Manage Apps, you can see the app usage from the report. So if I tap on that, I get to see all the usage from today on this device. I also see when it was last updated. The updating time for data is done automatically roughly every 3 hours, give or take. That's the default. You can make that more aggressive, and I have a link in the description of this video on where you can make those setting changes. Typically 3 hours is fine. We also will automatically update it when we detect bad words in text messages or an unknown number in text messages. So we actually force the refresh when those events occur, independently of our typical check-in schedule. So I just want to give that as a heads up, because expectations on that are not always clear. All right, back to the main screen. So now we'll go to the installed apps. And here we have a list of all the installed apps on this device. Pretty straightforward stuff. You see there's some blocked apps, and then at the top here we have an app that had a limit of 40 minutes. So I'll just go to calendar here real quick. So I had set a daily timer for the calendar as an example. All apps, when you first install Boomerang, will be set to allowed, except for browsers that are not filtered by Boomerang. So Chrome will be allowed, but Opera, Firefox, and other browsers will be blocked automatically as part of our block browser policy. You can turn this off, and I'll show this to you shortly, but keep in mind that that would then allow your child to access unfiltered websites. So allowed is the default way that we will set apps to when you install Boomerang, and then you can control however you want. Blocked, pretty self-explanatory, block the app. Encouraged and always allowed. Let me spend a few seconds on this. So back to when I mentioned the schedule. So when the schedule is set from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., at 8 p.m., I can set my apps to encourage. So during the day between the 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., encouraged apps will not count down my timer. So I had a 2-hour block of time I could use, like a bank of time, that will not count down when I use encouraged apps. Encouraged apps or always allowed apps, we typically recommend educational related apps, maybe a health app, someone's got to check their insulin levels or what have you, or a reading app, maybe even a music or podcast app. These are all apps we've seen as added to the always or encouraged list. Now, encouraged will not count down the time, but it will block the apps when the schedule is up. So if you don't want the schedule to block always allowed apps, well, set it to always allowed. So that's truly, it won't have no limits. It will not count down the time. These apps will always work. So we sometimes see a mix of both. So up to you how you want to manage that. And then as you saw, when I opened this window the first time, a daily limit per app can also be set independently of the device time and the schedule. So again, the schedule will always win in terms of blocking unless you have an app on the always allowed list. So the daily timer will work within all this. So even if there's 20 minutes left on, say, this app, and it's 8 p.m. because my schedule is over, you can't use the extra 20 minutes. So there's no like banking time till tomorrow kind of concept here at all. So most parents like that because, you know, at the end of a week, some kids may end up with many hours of bank time for no reason. So there you have it. So for every app, you get this concept. So it doesn't matter which one you pick. We could go to YouTube as an example, set a daily timer on YouTube. I may give it an hour, maybe 45 minutes a day as an example here. And then YouTube can be used for 45 minutes. Now you might have noticed if I scroll back up, so Google search here, we consider it a browser. We're considering Google search as a browser because we cannot filter the contents inside of it. So you can't access inappropriate content. So if I tap on here, as you can see, we're telling you why. So speaking of that, the blog browsers are actually a group that we have here underneath the app groups tab. Web and embedded browsers. So embedded browsers are actual, what we call activities that are inside an app. So I'll give you an example. Twitter would have an embedded browser inside its app, so you could maybe review the privacy policy or other settings or preview links inside the feed without leaving the app into, say, Chrome or Spin. Well, in some cases, those embedded browsers allow you to then access Google Unfiltered or websites unfiltered. So we have this on by default. So that, again, that's up to you how you want to set this on. This is a policy that is on by default when you install Boomerang on your child's device. And then another very popular feature is our blocking newly installed apps, both from Google Play and any website such as like APK download sites, which is kind of a technical term, but think of this: if you're a Windows user, you can install download files or programs from a website and install them. We will block those. We will notify parents both on their Android and iOS devices in parent mode. And then you can unblock that app if you wish. And of course, we also have a shortcut that tells you a little bit more about the app. So just click on the Learn More. And if you're not sure what the app's all about, we'll show you. All right, next up, web browsing. So I've already spoken a little bit about this. So web browsing today, as a version 11.62 and higher now, I think we're at, allows us on Android to filter the Chrome browser, and of course we continue to offer our Spin Safe browser. The difference between the two right now is we cannot enforce safe YouTube in Chrome. So if you're looking for that, what I would recommend is that you follow the tip from earlier where you enable the restricted mode on the YouTube app, and then here I'll show you as an example, we would end up blocking youtube.com as a domain that can be viewed in Chrome. Okay, but before we do that, let's just review the content categories. So these 6 can never be turned off. These are kind of the core categories that we require for safe browsing. And with Boomerang, we also enable a bunch that we recommend for safe browsing, especially with kids. I mean, I want them to, visit alcohol, tobacco type websites and all that kind of stuff. So up to you if you want these on or off, but they're on by default when you install Boomerang. And then down here we have additional categories which are off by default. And again, totally up to you based on your family style, parenting approach, if you want to block this stuff. If any website's overblocked or underblocked or should be blocked or is not blocked, contact us and we'll make sure to fix it so we can fix it for everybody. Block a website. So let me do an example. So I have an example website here, but let's add another one. So here's where we would do a way of blocking YouTube. So I'm going to type that in here. There's actually 2 you need to add. So because it's a mobile version, you need to add the following domains. And because you're already here, I thought it'd be cool to add a web browsing history shortcut. We do have a card that has all of the reports in one central spot, but here you're in the context of web browsing. So here I got the web browsing history set up. Block websites show up here. The history shows up here. I'm not even sure what I have in here. So I got a couple of examples here. And here's what's cool, what we've done is if you tap on any of the websites in the browsing history or the block websites, we will give you an option to copy it, visit it, or block it right from here. So if I go and block that first one right from here, now I go back to my blocked list, you'll notice that this website's now added. All right, so let's get back to the main view. So web browsing card done. Next up are the phone features. So here we have our texting and phone. Now very important, early 2019, Google really cracked down on the types of apps that could use the SMS and phone permissions. Unless you were a default app, or what they call a handler, you were not able to get approved for using these permissions anymore. So that was us, of course. So our version that's in the Google Play store today will have a version that looks like this. So this is 11.62.sideload. The one from Google Play will say 11.62-GP for Google Play. So where you get the siloed version is from our website. As I mentioned earlier, we can download apps from our website on Android, so we can do that as well. And the benefit is you can still use our texting and our phone features with that. So now let's review the texting features. So here I have the default settings are that we will use the keyword dictionary. So the dictionary right now needs to be edited in our web dashboard. I have a link in the description below for that. You have to log in with your group email and password, though we are working on adding that dictionary in here. So you'll be able to edit it, review it right here. But for now, we can enable or disable it. By default, it's on. Now, we will only collect the contents of text messages, incoming and outgoing, if there's a bad word by default. If you wish to collect everything, then toggle this on to collect text message content, and then we will get you everything. Now, even stuff you don't even care about, like stuff like hi, bye, all that, we will grab the content of that text message, both incoming and outgoing. And we will report this in your parent reports. And then lastly, as part of our safety, this is also enabled by default, is the unknown number detection. So if the number is not in your child's local contacts, so saved on the phone, we will flag it as an unknown number. So we can't block or delete text messages from these types of numbers, but we can notify. That's the best we can do now with Google changes from a few years ago. And then lastly, this a lot of parents love this one. So we can actually add specific numbers that you can get flagged on when they're text, regardless if they're in the contacts or if they're unknown. So this will be something like this. I'm just going to add an example here. And then when this number is text or my child's device receives a text from that number, I will get a notification. All right, so those are the text message options for now. Back to the main list. And then phone options are as follows. As I mentioned, by default, we will allow calls from the contacts. So this applies to, again, we consider that the same for the text messages as an unknown number. Now, if it's not in the contacts, we will actually block the phone call and we will send it straight to voicemail. So if it's a spam call or a call from a friend that they haven't saved their contact number in their contacts, then we will block it. And you will see this in the reporting as well of what numbers were blocked and what numbers were allowed. This option is off by default, so blocking the phone calls when time is up is really up to you on how you want your child to use the phone. Most cases, emergency calls still work, but on some phones, we can't actually block this properly, all depending on the type of Android phone app they have. And then the last option here is actually quite a big feature. We can add always allowed numbers, which can be dialed anytime. So these would be numbers you can call after hours and all that. So this is one way of getting across around, when the schedule is up, you can still call these. So here I can add a number manually, or I can add them from my local contacts. So on your parent device, you may already have numbers in there you want them to call, like an aunt, a brother, a sister, etc. And then instead of typing them in, you can just add them straight from your contacts one by one. And then lastly, we have the device reports. So here, if I go recent activities, I see all my reports that we can get from an Android child device. We've already looked at the app usage. So you saw this earlier. That's there. And then we allow you to see up to 30 days of data. Most people, that's enough. We also email you a daily report, a usage report to your group email. Back to the main list of reports. So web browsing history is right here. And we already looked at that. So this is the same screenshot as earlier. Same thing. We can go here and change the time range as well. And then we have the call logs. So call logs are quite cool. We have block calls. This one here I don't think has any blocks at all. No, it doesn't. So block calls will show up here. And you can see if it's incoming or outgoing. And then call history will be here. Now, if the contacts are saved, we will show you the name of the person and the phone number and the time and date that they called. And then same with block numbers, we'll do the same. Text message logs here as well. We have a bunch of logs. Now, what I'll show you here, because this is a pretty powerful feature, I will grab my son's phone. This has been my own phone I've been testing with. And I will go to the reports on this one and text message logs. You see, I got a bunch of text I've done with my partner. Now, we were testing the inappropriate keywords, so I will not go to the flag messages tab, but trust me that there's bad words in there. And then the only difference in layout is that underneath the date, you'll get a preview of the contents of that text message that was flagged for the keyword. If you've enabled collection of all content, then the content will then show up under the message logs underneath the time here. All right, so then YouTube app history. Do I have anything on this one? No. So what I will do is I will go back to, I believe it was the family tablet. I did a bunch of web history for the YouTube. So a couple Minecraft videos. So as you can see here, I have that. And what's cool here is I can visit it, copy it, etc. Because it's a website, we're going to treat this as a website, but it's actually something that was viewed in the YouTube app. So behind the YouTube app is actually a website that's streaming that video to your child's device. So this allows you to kind of double check what was going on. So it's a nice way to kind of figure that out. And then we also grab searches. I don't have any searches made on this device, but you'll see a list of keyword searches that they've done in the YouTube app. All right. What I want to show you on the text message logs is I can also tap on this name. I can copy the number. And I can add it to my list to be blocked. So that way I get notified when this person is text. So that's a nice little shortcut. So if I add this one to my list, I go add list. Now I go back to the text message list. You'll notice that I have that number now in here. And then the last thing I want to show you here is just the iPhone. Apple has really gone after our market here. This affects all the competitors. We can't do much anymore. That's the bottom line. We can do some timing out of devices with schedules, but it's not a true experience like we have on Android. If you're a mixed family with a child with an iOS device and you're on Android, this will at least allow you to time out the device and set a schedule and then tweak things as you see fit. If you're using our Spin Safe browser on your child's iOS device, you got the same settings here. We cannot actually filter Chrome, so keep in mind that, even though I'm mentioning this here. And device reports are very basic. So on that note, I'll conclude this video. This wraps up our overview of parent mode for Android parent devices. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if I missed anything or you would like something else covered, leave a comment below. Thank you very much.